Thanks for tuning in again, everybody. We're back with your favorite podcast, Luca's Tigers and Bronze. Oh my.
Welcome back to another episode of Luca's Tigers and Bronze. Oh my. We're going to do a StarStock episode. Keep it short, sweet, to the point. But first, I want to ask you, Trae Young, snubbed for All-Star?
No. I mean, there was always talk of him potentially getting in there, and, he still might sneak in. There's injuries, there's all crazy stuff that goes on, and maybe he'll still be on it. But, he's not having as good of a season as he had last year. And you have to remember, who's playing this year and who's doing, who got in ahead of him. So no, I don't think snubbed. I don't think snubbed at all. There are just that many good guards in the East.
Devin Booker, snub?
I think both of those guys fall victim to the same exact thing, and that's both of them were playing so well last year that they took a step back this year, both of them. Both of them because their teams added more talent and started to play a little bit more around them. So I'm going to say no, not a snub. I put them in like it's bad, but it's like Mike Trout. You give Mike Trout the MVP every year, but a lot of voters don't vote for him because his year this year wasn't as good as his year last year. You know what I mean?
The StarStock Emerging 30 Index, Cage, is kind of leveling out. So it's only down 1% this week. What do you make of that? Give us a quick, what, kind of state of the union on the modern NBA market as we're approaching the All-Star break. Do you think it's going to catch a little bit of fire, a little bit of a tailwind after All-Star break, or do you think that this modern sell-off is going to continue?
I don't think the modern sell-off continues. I think we're finding a floor with it. I mean, we've seen the cycles, right? And modern has not gone through the same kind of cycle as everything else, right? Vintage went up, vintage went down, vintage is going back up. Everything went up, went down, goes back up. Modern hasn't gone back up yet. And modern is this, it doesn't surprise me it takes the longest to, catch steam again because there's more of it than anything else. But listen, I'm shouting from the hills about Top Shot. The other day I looked and I said, all right, I forget what the number was now. And I probably should have, kept track of it better. But I said, all right, Zion's Top Shot moment is how much money? His second year Top Shot moment out of 15,000 is selling for like $700 or $600 or how much crazy money is this stuff selling for? Let me go in and check. And I know the population will grow and the whole deal. I said, let me go in and check how many PSA 10 Zions there are from his rookie year. Not a second year, not a second series like Series 2, moments on Top Shot. Let me check the Prism rookie on him. I think, what is it, number 248? And Prism PSA 10s, as of right now, there's about 15,000 of them, right? It's 15,696. So I said to myself, now stuff might be getting a little out of whack. A little, right? You go into the Top Shot marketplace. I know it's hot. I know it's crazy. And I know everybody's doing, but the one out of 15,000 is selling for $547 as we record this. It was significantly higher yesterday, but $547. So basically, the Prism rookie from last year, PSA 10, has the same population. They both have about 15,000, and they're selling for about the same price. But last year's Prism tangible card is his rookie. The 15,000 is a Series 2. It's like, what is it, the fifth moment of his? He's got 3 in Series 1 and 2 in Series. So it's like his fifth little and his least valuable one. So, I mean, look.
I know Top Shot's a closed marketplace right now, and some moments are going to be overpriced. But at the same time, I think some of the really scarce moments are underpriced.
Yeah, well, listen, I agree with that, right? Because a rookie that's out of 1,500 should be more than a Prism that's got PSA 10s that are out of 15,000, let alone the full count of them. But to me, I mean, you have to start thinking, if people are willing to shell out that kind of money for Zion, I would prefer, all things being equal, that Prism PSA 10 rookie instead of a
My good friend Cage, you can't forget about the BGS behemoth out there in Texas, who also graded probably 7,000
Yeah,
prisms.
there's a lot of them. There's a lot. You're right. There's a lot, but I still think it's the rookie and the whole deal, and eventually that card, it's. I mean, it can't keep coming down. I know there's a lot of them. He's having such a great year. It's just, I mean, I know there's a lot. That's the thing, right? But is 16,000 really that much?
So let's go right there. So Zion last week was a big sell-off, and this week I think it continued as well. His StarStock A card used to be $500.
Yep.
Right now, the most valued cards on StarStock are Luca at 850 for StarStock A, which is insane. Jason Tatum at 250 for StarStock A. But now Zion's are 250 for StarStock A's. Do you start looking at, making some higher end plays on StarStock potentially and tracking at least before you buy into the Zion market? Maybe Zion's a play.
Yeah. Well, listen, if you go by what they're grading, if it's going to be 70, 80% of them are going to be, tens or whatever it may be, then yeah, it's going to come to a point in time where if that Zion continues to go down in StarStock A, I may buy 10 of them, tell them to grade them all, and hope a few of them get tens. And then you're getting PSA tens for even less than the $550, $600 that the tens go for. So, it's one of those times where you have identified, an interesting play. It's one thing to say I sent in 1,000 cards and how come so many of them didn't get A's. The flip side to that is you should be able to trust that buying an A, you're buying a good quality card. And, since that's the case, you buy a card, you have them grade it, you get it back, and, you're potentially getting back a 10. So, more often than not, you're going to get a 10 on those. But now you're getting a 10 for 250 plus grading. That's now we're talking about a real bargain.
Yep. And someone looked over that card. I love it. So, Cage, have you taken a look at the StarStock data we've gotten?
I did. Sadiq Bey, man, I love that he's on this list. I really do, because people who follow us from before we even were doing StarStock episodes, when we just talked about StarStock, our original, StarStock Luka Nation group, Sadiq Bey was one of my picks. I said, this kid's pretty good. He looks like he's going to get some playing time. He's going to get some minutes. So when I saw that he was the top player by sales count last week, I was like, whoa, look at this. Sadiq Bey made the list. You got to love it. Yeah, I mean, listen, you've got some, things that you identified on here. Number one, that emerging 30 index update is kind of flattening out, which to me, I don't know if it means anything to you, but to me, it means that I think Modern's finding that floor.
Yep.
And we did an episode about 2 weeks ago, and I said, I think Modern's finding a floor. And you said, no, it's going to take about 2 weeks. It's been about 2 weeks. You think we're here? Did you call it? Did you call this the 100th thing you called right in the last 100 times you tried?
I love it. Flattery is what works for Andrew. But I'll tell you, Modern still scares me a little bit because it hasn't reversed, right? Like in stocks, you often look for that reversal.
Yep.
It is flattening out, but it still means that there's more sellers than buyers. That's literally what it means. So it's back on my radar, and I'm starting to look out for plays. What I'm seeing is some oversold potential players, but as of the market, I still think a little bit after the All-Star break is when it's going to return. And I think we're going to find a bit more of a floor. I think we're going to start seeing some John Morant prisms in the 300s. That 400, It seems crazy, but it's not, man. That used to be a prism base card, used to be like a $20, $30 card.
Yep.
So
let me ask you, I mean, it's StarStock, and obviously it'll apply this week, because StarStock's going to get inundated with this stuff, and it's going to be the day trading card, and it's going to be, be what goes into the next emerging 30. Maybe LaMelo will get moved into that, you name it, and it'll be the thing that people are trading. But this week, pictures of the Prism release for this year got released. So it's funny how it happens, right? Because Prism and base cards were flying high in football season, but right before Prism football was released, Joe Burrow got hurt. And we were like, oh, does that impact Prism? Does it impact it? Are Prism prices going to get impacted, you think, by what's going on with these cards, with with the Zions and the Jaws? Do you think that people still go hot and heavy for LaMelo? You think the prices of wax are going to stay where they where people think they are?
I think they're going to be very volatile. I think they're going to be volatile. I think the first off the line type of stuff, like people ripping the LaMelo and getting the first LaMelo hoops, that was $300-400, and then it dropped to 60. I think we're still going to see that. I think LaMelo will have a premium, but I think it's actually going to be a combination of two things, Cage. This NBA draft class doesn't have a star. Wiseman, Edwards are very, very raw. Even LaMelo, you can't compare him to Luka and Trey of previous years, and you certainly can't compare him to Zion of last year. So I actually do. And I think that's okay. I think that actually shows for healthy growth. And I think it's okay that the market will reflect a draft class that might not be so good. Because let's flip it. Let's say that this year's prices were significantly higher, 50, 60% higher than last year's, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that actually prove that we're in a bubble?
Yeah. So I look at it a different way, right? I mean, I look at it, it's an infusion of interest, right? And you might have some people selling now because they know the next stuff's coming out. But when that prism drops, right? When that prism drops and LaMelo is selling for what he's selling for, and people like Tyrese Halliburton, which I've watched the kid play. He's a good player. He's undersized. He's a good NBA player. He'll be fine, but he's not going to win an MVP. He's a good
Tyler Hero.
He's a good player for this year's draft. He's fine. He's a good player, but he's not. He's never going to be. People are really trying to make Tyrese Halliburton happen. They really are. And nothing against Tyrese Halliburton. I'm sure he's a great guy, and he's going to be a good NBA player for a long time. If you go back to our draft special, he was one of those guys that I was surprised that he fell as far as he did in the draft. But this draft, you're right, it's light. But when this prism comes out and there's all this attention on it, what's going to happen is you're going to see people paying, like you said in the beginning, ridiculous sums for Halliburton, Edwards, Wiseman, Avdija, Patrick Williams.
You think so?
They can spend money for Cole Anthony. Yeah, I can guarantee you that when it comes out, people are going to pay more for LaMelo than they're paying for Zion and Ja. But that's not going to last, because what's going to happen is people are going to say that is dumb. Sort of like you did when the LaMelo hoops came out and said, why wouldn't you just buy Ja hoops? If that's what you're planning on doing, why wouldn't you buy 2 Ja PSA10 hoops for the price of this one raw LaMelo hoops? You said this in an episode, and you're 100% right?
Who's on the other end buying that, though? Like that, they have to know that's a poor decision, right? Or they just want the card. I guess I don't get it.
People chase what's new and shiny. It is part of human nature. We're like cats with laser pointers, man. This is the new one. It's out. I gotta get my prism. And people are gonna pay for the LaMelo. There are LaMelo fans. There are LaMelo believers. There are people who think, well, you saw what happened last year with the prism cards. You name it. Now, do I think it might be tempered? Sure. There's 2 reasons I think it'll be tempered. Number one, this draft class is not that good. And number 2, we've seen the prices fall off of the last 2 draft classes. The moonshot, it fell a little short. So I think it'll be tempered. But yeah, when it's new, people are all over it, man. People are like, let's go. One of these guys is going to be great. I'm going to buy it. I'm a Patrick Williams believer, or I'm an Anthony Edwards believer, and people will be buying that stuff.
I think this class is going to have another Giannis. I like these types of classes. These classes that are kind of all even, no true superstar. It reminds me of the 2013 class a lot. It really does. And I want to see a Giannis shine. And I think what's cool about draft class like this, if they don't come out with a huge hype that, last year's Zion class came, people can buy and they can have affordable cards and they can take a gamble on a 25th pick or a second round pick, because they could turn into something serious.
I agree. I definitely do. And it also, we'll get to the StarStock data in a second, because I think obviously everything's going to blow up when Prism hits. StarStock's going to get crazy, even crazier than it already is. But it also says sealed wax might be something to keep this year more so than years past, because you knew what you were looking for in the prior years. You knew you were looking for Zion and Ja. This year, there might be that diamond in the rough. where you're buying that whole draft class.
Is Quigley going to be in the draft in this
Yeah,
prism?
yeah, definitely.
That would be my buy. That would be my buy. New York.
He's everybody's buy.
What do you
He's
do?
everybody's buy now.
That's everyone's buy.
LaMelo, sure, because he's number one. But behind that, there are probably more people excited for Quickly than there are for even your Wiseman. Quickly is like he's huge. A lot of people want Quickly stuff. That's the next Series 2 Top Shot moment. That's who they're advertising. It's IQ's first moment. It's a big deal. People are definitely looking for it. He's no longer under the radar. You could, Prism Draft had him in it as autos, and you could steal some of them, cheap. He didn't even have a base card in there. But yeah, I mean, trust me, you're not going to be able to get quick IQ stuff cheap.
IQ, that's what we're going to call him from now on. I like that, Cage.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's rock with this data. Let me, do I have it pulled up here? Where did it go?
What are you pulling on? So I'll start it off, right? I mean, I was not surprised by a couple of things. Number one, top 5 teams by sales count. All right, shouldn't surprise anybody that the Hornets were number one because everybody's buying LaMelo, everybody's doing a whole bunch of stuff. But it wasn't just LaMelo that was in there. It was people were buying LaMelo cards, but people were also buying over the last couple of weeks. Malik Monk's cards coming out of nowhere, Terry Rozier's cards because Rozier had a ridiculously crazy week. So there was definitely a lot of that. But the one that snuck into there, and I love this because it tells me where it's coming. The Dodgers were the third biggest team, and on top 5 players by sales and value, you had, and also sales count from the baseball in there too. Bo Bichette was in there in both sales value and count, and Fernando Tatis was the number one by sales value. So I love that we're getting in there. We're getting some Toronto Blue Jays. We're getting some Dodgers. And the top 5, brands we got some baseball in there. Baseball moving its way up. And please.
One observation that I've seen that this happened with Mahomes, this happened with Tatis. Guys that get extensions, this actually happened with Giannis too. Guys that get extensions, their cards, it takes a little bit of time, but 1 or 2 weeks later, the market's kind of prices them in.
You mean like it moves it up? You mean?
Yeah.
It happened with Mookie Betts last year too.
It's such an interesting phenomenon. Like if I could pick one catalyst that moves a player's cards more than anything, it's a max.
Can I tell you my thought process on that?
Why else would I bring up the topic?
It's not a guarantee, but
you think it's because I want to hear myself speak, Cage? No, I want to hear you.
Well, listen, you want to hear me, and I love looking at you. So especially for somebody like Tatis, why I think it exploded his card value is, more so than ever now, we see a lot of movement in the league. We see a lot of people switching teams, signing contracts, free agents, you name it, right? And, somebody like Gleyber Torres, you might believe in Gleyber, right? You might think he's going to be, he's going to have a great year and blah, blah, blah. But we have to talk about what card do you want? Do you want him in his Chicago Cubs Bowman card, or do you want him in a Yankee rookie card? People might believe in Yohan Moncada, but do you want him in his Red Sox card, or do you want him in his White Sox card? People might believe. So I think that Tatis Topps rookie card flew the way it did because people know now. That's it. Unless something happens, which it still might happen. 14 years, man. He's a Padre. You got him in his uniform for the right team. It's really cool. And, that's the card to go after and buy. I think his own fan base goes out and gets him. I think the San Diego Padres guys are like, all right, we've locked him up. Let's go out and buy the card. He's in the news. He's, when those contracts that they come out like that age, what was like him and A-Rod or him and somebody, it's him, Machado, these huge contracts that are, they become kind of like the face of the game and they become the news of the offseason. So it doesn't surprise me that happens. It's a little odd to me that it happens because he didn't do anything on the field. As a matter of fact, you could say that he's got more pressure now because now he's got to play up to that contract. So I guess we'll see.
Or buy the hype, sell the news. Worst performer and Cage. So that noise you guys are hearing, that's just Cage. He can't sit still. Yeah. Worst performers, Trae Young, 22% loss. Man, people are selling off Trae Young like hotcakes. Do you see a bounce back on his cards, both on StarStock and Prism?
Part of the problem with Trae is that he had run up so much. So it's sort of like a correction right now. What's Trae's Prism Silver PSA 10?
I think 1900.
Because that was, what was that? $4,000 coming into the season, right? I think.
Yep, 2000 or best offer right now. Right
wow.
on.
Wow. See, it's 50%. The card is 50% of what it was. That's interesting. And throw another one out there, right? We're talking about Zion's, Prism rookie selling at 5 and change. Yeah. And Jaws in the 400s. Do you know how much Trae's is? The base?
400?
Yeah, 4 and change.
I think that's going to drop into the threes. I really do. I've been calling this modern sell-off ever since I was wrong about not picking the modern sell-off. And I just don't. I just think we're going to find a floor a little bit lower. I really do. I think it's going to scare a few people too. There's going to be some
more than they're already scared.
I think it's a good thing. I think it's a healthy correction, especially for these modern cards that are just population in the 10,000s. I think it's healthy to find a new floor that we could all operate from. Because before,
this is like a final shakeout coming.
Yeah, because we've never seen a 2 years in the hobby like with these guys. With Luka, Trae, Ja, and Zion, they kind of changed the game for modern cards, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of it is you have to be careful expecting the same type of performance as what's happened in the past, right? So there's a saying in the financial markets, right? It's like past performance does not dictate future results, right? They have to put that at the end of every advertisement, every financial prospectus that they do, you name it. And I think what happened was people saw the run up on Giannis's Prism.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, all right, well, Luka's next. And they saw a run up on Luka's Prism. And then, all right, Trae's next. And you name it, the whole deal. And the missing piece of it is you still have to have that supply and demand part of the equation. And I don't think people realize just how much supply there was on the more recent years of Prism and just how much Panini ramped up the production on Prism and how those two cards, the 13, 14 Prism, with Giannis and the more recent Prisms are just not comparable cards from a supply perspective.
Giannis cards, his run up took 5 years, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Zion's run up took 5-6 months, and that's a different game. So let's wrap with this, Cage. So I want to talk, unless there's anything from the data, one thing sticks out to me, and this is from watching NBA Top Shot and from watching StarStock. People really like Darius Bazley. The market appreciates him because here's what's interesting. That OKC team doesn't have any real stars. SGA is their star.
From last week to this week, Bazley's up over 50% on StarStock data. So that's important that you point that out. So talk to me, because I know you are a Bazley guy ever since we did the Bubble Bazley episode.
Well, I love watching how markets work. So SGA continues to kind of overperform expectations. His cards don't budge. His cards literally don't move. It's so funny. Like, even when there was the run-up with Prism, his cards just don't move, Cage.
I sold my only Prism PSA 10 silver that I had of SGA because you told me to. It's basically dead money. Even he will do better than people think, and it's still not going to move up $100. I moved it.
It's such an interesting phenomenon.
It's weird. Why? Because people love that Oklahoma City team, and they got a great future. They're all young.
I couldn't understand it. During the bubble month, when Luka's cards were going crazy, Zion's, everyone's cards were going nuts, SGA, who people were like, this guy's good. He's a good player. His cards didn't budge. His silver went from 850 to 900. It's impossible to sell.
I guess the positive on it, though, is since it didn't run, it's also not going to tank.
I wonder. Sometimes there's the anchor effect, right? But Bazley is someone who there were no expectations at all for, and people kind of like him. He's got a little bit of swag. He could play. He's a perimeter player. He could slash. He could He could get to the cup and yam and dunk, as I like to say. And I think he's over. He's come from nowhere, and he's a player that people like. They like his swag, and they're putting a few dollars into him, and he was worth pennies before. So for him to move a little bit is nothing. I think he's a player that I would monitor. I think he's an interesting play. I don't think his cards have finished running out.
So my StarStock thing for the day, right, is I love the data. I got to tell you, there are bargains on StarStock, right? There are people who sent in hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands of cards recently. And it took a while for them to get logged in, and they're getting StarStock Bs on some of them. These are cards that they weren't putting on eBay. They were cards that were in people's basements, people's closets, stuff that they broke over the last couple of years. And they just sent in every card because the way it works with StarStock is they'll, as long as it's one of the cards they take, they'll list it. They'll intake it because they're going to take their 5% when it sells. So I've seen cards sell today. I did a little extra research besides what StarStock gave us. I've seen cards sell today of, Prism rookies in A and B for the last two rookie classes of decent names. You're talking about like Grant Williams, the guys from the Celtics, Tremont Waiters, not Baisley, not that level, but, one step below, a Jackson Hayes, a Claxton, who's a good defender for the Nets, like guys who could contribute in the playoffs. A's and B's selling for nickels and dimes. Talking about like a 10 cent, 15, 20. Take a look at recent sales for today, because people are basically they're waking up, they're getting an email from StarStock, and they're saying your cards are starting to be listed, and there's 3, 4, 5, 800 cards in there, and people are basically taking whatever their offer is for those Bs. A card might be worth a couple bucks on eBay, but no, if there's not a lot of them up on StarStock, or there's not a lot of offers and people are just looking to clean up their inventory. So my suggestion is, and this is a money-making play here, right, is to go look for those. Look for those middle-of-the-road rookies. People have them. And people have them in their collection, and they're not even listed yet. Because some people just keep them in the collection, and they don't even list it for sale unless there's an offer. Start making some offers for guys you like. Pick 5 or 10 basketball Prism rookies from the last 2 draft classes that you like. Hell, Devontae Graham. Maybe he gets traded. Maybe he turns around next year and actually does win MIP. Just a name, right? You can get his rookie cards from last year for pennies. Pennies. I submitted, I got a purple wave in there, and it got a B. And I think that the highest offer on it is like $3. And you know what? I might take it. So go ahead.
No, I like that. That's so interesting because, we often make money in the hobby on speculation, but here you're making it on just sheer arbitrage. You're saving some time. You're doing your research, you're putting in offers, and sure, you might not get that sub back till next year, but if you can allocate $300, $400, $500, you might net 2,000 when it all gets back.
I'm telling you, there are a bunch of $1 and $2 cards out there that if you put in 10-cent offers, you're going to get them accepted. Right. And as soon as you get a 10-cent,
the grading fee is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, forget about grading. I'm just saying buy that card in StarStock B for a nickel, 10 cents, whatever it is. Nickel, no, because they take a minimum of a nickel, but 10 cents, 15 cents, put it in, and then immediately relist it for $1. I'm talking about cards that the lowest sale price right now is $3, $4 on. $3, $4. Rookies, Prism rookies. People are making offers, 10, 15 cents, because no one's buying them. And sellers are taking them. They're taking the offers just because they want to condense their collection that they just dumped on StarStock. I don't know if this is a long-term strategy or if it's just something that I'm recommending now because everybody sent all their cards in January, end of December, and everybody's got their cards, hitting their accounts now. And they're just like, they don't even remember what they sent.
Right.
But whatever the reason, take advantage of it. You can literally buy cards for pennies on the dollar now.
Last question. Nets, 7-game win streak. Durant's not even playing. 4 or 5 guys are shooting over 40% from 3. Believer, pretender, contender?
I'll believe those guys can work together in the playoffs when I see it.
Okay.
So contender, definitely. You can't have that much talent on your team and not be a contender. Elite, I have to see it to believe it. I'm not saying they can't do it. I mean, they are, if you gave me 4 teams that were going to finish, that I had to pick 4 teams, and you have the title winner, the champ, come out of those 4 teams. The Nets would be one of my 4. So obviously they are a title contender. I just don't know if I say I put them leader in the clubhouse until I see those 3 guys actually all play together in a meaningful game.
Love you, Luca Nation.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you for spending some time with us on another episode of the Lucas, Tigers, and Bronze Oh My podcast. Do us a favor and like, subscribe. You know what? Don't just like and subscribe. Everybody does that. If you like us, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies, tell everybody. And we hope you got something from spending some time with us today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.